Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum and I'm here today at the Rock Island Auction Company taking a look at a couple of the guns they're going to be selling in their upcoming May of 2019 premiere auction. What we have today is a very rare example of one of those revolvers that went into production and was then squashed by the Colt Company because, well, these guys were kind of explicitly violating Colt's patent. So this is a Springfield Arms Company Navy model revolver, a double trigger version. They had single and double trigger guns. We'll get into that in just a moment. I do want to point out that Springfield Arms Company has no relation to Springfield Armory, either the actual U.S. military armory or the commercial company of the same name today. Just happen to be a company located in Springfield, Massachusetts. So this company existed basically in 1850 and 1851, and that's it because they were hounded out of business by Colt's lawyers. The revolver here was the design of a guy named James Warner, who was chief engineer for the Springfield Arms Company. And while he did have a patent on this design or on a few features of it, the rest of the gun that he manufactured did in fact violate Colt's patent on basically the revolver mechanism. Patents exist, well, for better or worse, patents are the law in this country, and they have been, and Mr. Warner was not the only person to make an attempt to sell guns in violation of Colt's patent. So let's take a closer look, and I'll show you why this thing has two triggers. This is actually a nicer handling gun than I had expected. You get a two-finger grip on it, third finger under the butt of the gun. But yeah, it actually handles reasonably nicely. Now, what we have here is a 6-shot 36 caliber revolver, and as a general rule, Navy model means 36 caliber, Army model means 44 caliber. That just kind of became a naming convention. We do have a loading ramrod under the barrel. Let's go ahead and take that so you can put pour your powder in, seat a ball, and then you can use the ramrod to fully seat it. Nice little spring-loaded catch holding it under the barrel, right there. The hammer is slightly offset to the side so that it clears the sights, such as they are. These are really, really minimal sights. But again, that's fairly typical for this time period. We only have two marks on the gun. One is Warner's patent, right there on the frame, and the other is Springfield Arms Company, Arms Co., up on the top strap of the barrel. That one's pretty worn, but you can still make it out. Now, the reason for two triggers was a vain attempt to avoid Colt patents. And the deal here is the rear trigger actually fires the gun. That releases the sear that drops the hammer. The front trigger actually works the cylinder stop and cylinder hand. So the front trigger rotates the cylinder, and the rear one fires it. And when you, I'm going to hold this all the way back, when you pull the front trigger all the way through, it will rotate the cylinder as it has there, and then the front trigger actually hits the rear trigger, and if you continue to pull, it will trip the rear trigger and drop the hammer and fire the revolver. So it's a single action gun. You have to manually cock it, and note that when you do manually cock it, the cylinder doesn't move because that is tied into the front trigger. So then when you fire, you're going to do that, drop the hammer. I overshot it a little bit, which is, well, part of the potential problem for something like this. There we go. And it fires. Now, this didn't actually successfully prevent Colt from suing Springfield Arms Company out of existence, but we'll get into that a little bit later. One other neat feature that we do have here is one extra notch. As you can see, 5 of the 6 spaces between the cylinders are just solid metal. However, this one has a little scalloped cutout in it. That is to address the perennial safety problem with this sort of gun, with percussion revolvers of, well, and cartridge revolvers to some extent, of you don't want to carry one loaded with the hammer over a loaded cylinder, because if you've got the hammer down like this on top of a percussion cap and a loaded chamber, if you hit the back of the hammer, or say if the gun falls and hits the ground, this could detonate and fire. So you don't want to do that, but you've only got 6 shots, so you don't necessarily want to leave it unloaded. So what do you do? Well, the best thing you could do is to have a safety rest in between percussion caps where you can drop the hammer and it's nice and safe in there. Can't easily rotate out of alignment until you cock the hammer. And that allows you to carry all 6 chambers loaded. So that's really kind of a neat system. Some other percussion guns had mechanisms like this, but this is a particularly positive and well-designed one. We can do a little bit of disassembly here. I'm going to go ahead and cock that. To remove the barrel, we have to take out this screw. Once that comes out, we can then rotate the barrel 90 degrees to the side and then pull it off. So there's a little slot there and a locking pin right here, and that's what keeps the barrel in place, so it can't come off unless it's 90 degrees out. Like so, then the cylinder comes right off, and we have a basic field stripped Springfield Arms Company revolver. Looking at the mechanism up a little bit closer, this front trigger has, it pushes the hand, so that hand is going to lift up. That hand is going to act on these notches on the inside of the cylinder here, and that's what causes the cylinder to rotate. And then this front surface of the trigger itself right here, that is your cylinder stop. So that is going to lock against these little lugs and prevent the cylinder from moving too far. There we go. Once that's in position, it can actually over travel, but it cannot go back. So that locks the cylinder against the stop right there. Then the rear trigger, of course, drops the hammer. Note that all of the working parts on the back of this are recessed just a little bit below the face of the cylinder, so the whole thing seals up fairly nice and tight. That's also a cool design feature. And lastly, we can take the grips off by removing this screw. By the way, I would take the side plate off, but this screw is also the access pin for the hammer, and then that thing gets a little jumpy with its springs if you try and take that pin out, so I'm leaving it in place. You can see a little bit up into there with the grips off. The main reason I want to pull the grips off is to show you the serial number, which is here in the center web of the frame, number 107, out of about 125 of this particular model made. In total, Springfield managed to make about 250 of these guns, about 125 with a single trigger and another 125 with a double trigger. That attempt to avoid the patents from Colt didn't actually work. They did also make a variety of other models of this basic design. They made them in 28 caliber, in 31 caliber, different barrel lengths. They had, the belt model, the pocket model, the Navy model. All of these pretty much went away at the same time, and none of them, as best I can tell, was manufactured in numbers of more than just a couple hundred. So they are really a quite scarce gun today. These are occasionally considered secondary U.S. Marshall pistols, but there are no specific known contracts or official military use of them. So pretty cool to get a chance to take a look at one. It's neat to see that double trigger idea, even if it didn't end up working out. If you'd like to add this to your own collection, it is of course coming up for sale here at Rock Island. Check out their catalog entry on it for pictures and description. And of course, while you're over there, you can check out everything else they have in the catalog for the upcoming sale. Thanks for watching.